Hello, everyone. This is a Reclaiming My Story live stream. This is my very first time doing the live stream on this channel. And so I'm a bit nervous. So bear with me if I make any mistakes or, slip up. I'll get it together. My name is Basija Pyjai. Basija means chief. I am an American Indian chief. I have reclaimed my tribe. I am a part of the Choctawhema tribe out of Mississippi. And so I'm here to discuss why it's important to know who you are and to break down the differences between your paper lineage and a DNA testing, and why there's a distinction, why the genealogy may not be accurate, and what steps should you take to make sure that you know who you are and where you come from. Okay. So, again, my name is Pyjai. I am an American Indian chief, Basija Pyjai. Basija means chief. And so I like to go and use Chat GPT. Why? Because it's AI and I've never seen it to lie to me. If anything, it's more biased to Eurocentric ideology. And so I just want to break down some things, share with you, because I have been in certain circles or conversations where individuals are like, you know, Black people crazy for, just looking at, going and looking up their history through paperwork and everything when you could just get a blood test and know who you are, right? And it's said with so much sass that in a sense, it's shaming, and people, some people are put on guard with that. I myself like to lean into those conversations because I feel that it's an opportunity to educate others, and that's why we're here. We don't know what we don't know, and so we can say things like that, shaming other people as if they're in the wrong, not knowing important information that may leave us looking ignorant when we make these statements. And that's all I'm saying. So come along with me on a journey with ChatGPT. I call it my personal assistant. So I'm going to share my screen. All right, so I'm going to show you the question that I asked. I said, Black Americans are critiquing Black American Indians who are autochthonous. Autochthonous means that you originated from this land. And not they are not Native Americans who came over through the Bering Strait. If you study the history, the those that we call Native Americans are actually Asians from the Bering Strait. They came over to the Americas from Alaska. Autochthonous, once again, means that we originated from this landmass. We were here, we came from here. No one, took us here, brought us here, anything. Our history runs deep. Our bloodline runs very deep here. And so the answer was to resolve that, this is what Chat said. Number one, DNA tests are inherently inaccurate for autochthonous people. No database equals no proof. Companies like Ancestry DNA, 23andMe, and others use base results on reference population. And Indigenous Americans, reference populations are severely underrepresented and misrepresented. Autochthonous Black American Indian ancestors are often excluded from tribal rolls and U.S. Census. Indigenous population in the Americas were never fully sequenced and their descendants often misclassified. As example, Negro or colored. DNA cannot pinpoint tribal affiliation, even when markers show indigenous ancestry that generalize. In the mitochondrial and Y chromosome basis, these tests often only trace only one lineage, maternal or paternal, ignoring full genealogical picture. I'm gonna get back to that in a minute. The mitochondrial or Y chromosome basis, right? But when it comes to DNA testing using these companies, one of the things that we know is that they've been lying. We have records and proof, documents, even, articles that have come out that state You can't rely on these things. Why are they collecting it? One, they would just want to make money. Two, it still pushes a certain agenda. Now, I want to break down the DNA testing when it says that what does it say? I'm trying to think. Well, okay, even markers show in district and they're generalized, right? Um, no, that's not what I'm going to talk about. Here we go. Other based results on reference population and indigenous population reference populations are severely underrepresented and misrepresented. Why are they underrepresented and misrepresented? um, like you said, never took our DNA. But if you think about how DNA testing is done and what it states, oh, you're from here and your people are from here, you can't logically pinpoint a group of people to a geographical location based upon bloodline. What that means is this is where these group of people are right now. This is where they are right now. And why am I highlighting that? Okay, this is where they are right now. Oh, we can look back historically. These people have been there for generations and so on and so forth. Okay. But we know if you study the history of Americas, we have been interacting with Africans long before anybody else knew we were over here. What we did is we focused on diversification. Understand that we were matriarchal before all of this. I mean, globally, before any other group of people came into existence, we were matriarchal. And so, women, what we have the capacity to duplicate ourselves. This is why the Immaculate Conception is in so many cultures, because it is a dormant capability of our womb. That's fact. Look it up yourself. Okay. So we need diversification. Diversification with other bloodlines allows us to be stronger. So you're going to find, because we've interacted with those on the other side of the hemisphere for eons before we met anyone, yeah, you're going to find that in your bloodline. And if they had markers for American Indians, you would also find that they have markers of our ancestry in them as well. Moving on. Family lineage and oral history. Autochthonous people use oral tradition, kinship systems, and communal memory to maintain identity, not colonial blood science. Lineage is relational identity, not biological one. In indigenous worldviews, who you belong to and your place in this land is what defines you, not a number or lab result. Paper genocide erased Black indigenous lineage, as detailed by scholars like Dr. Taya Miles and Dr. Dolores Januski. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that lady's name right. The U.S. government and state reclassifies American Indians as Black or colored to deny land sovereignty and recognition. Lineage through records, i.e., the Indian rolls, freedmen rolls, census records, church registries, family Bibles, and land deed, is the only surviving form of evidence for many families. So, what this is saying is basically our tribes and affiliation were political, it was relationship based. It was, you can look back at any community, indigenous culture when they discuss their tribes. Everybody is not necessarily blood related. They're not marrying their cousin. You know what I mean? Like it's relationship, it's proximity to be labeled whatever tribe you're in. It's not blood. It's not blood. It's relationship. And so what that means is if someone marries into my family, they have access to my tribe as well as their children. It's relationship. You can't prove that they're a part of my family. You would need some sort of documentation in this reality that we live in now, which would be the marriage license. Excuse my computer is also set up for my phone. My phone is on mute, but you hear some tings because I'm getting messages coming in. The third one is blood quantum and DNA testing equals tools of erasure. Hold on. I realize you may not. Oh, yeah, you can see me. Let's do the side view. Can we do the side view? Okay, good. All right. Because I wanna reference myself, make sure that I'm looking okay. Now I've lost the document. I shouldn't have done it. Bear with me. Here we go. Okay, so what is it? The third thing we're on? Blood quantum and DNA testing equals tools of erasure. Blood quantum laws were created by the US to diminish Native identity over time. They were not indigenous in origin, designed to breed out tribes and to reduce the number of people eligible for lands, rights, or sovereignty. DNA testing is a modern version of blood quantum. It reinforces colonial ideas that race or identity can be biologically verified, and the erasure of mixed, multi-tribal, or culturally indigenous people who don't fit a settler's definition. Okay, so it says it right there. These tools were is another form of paper genocide. It's another way to say, oh, you don't qualify because we see 70% African ancestry markers in your bloodline. So you came over from Africa. That's not necessarily true. That's not true. If you don't have any reference point to my bloodline here in this land, how do you know that that's 75% is solely African? Because we are intermixed people. We have constantly been mixing with each other. So before we met Europeans, my bloodline was already in theirs. You found me there, but you're saying I came from there. I hope that makes sense. I hope this is making sense to you. So, but they can't say that. You can't prove there's if you don't have any markers for us here, how can you say that's where we're from? If they did it the other way around, they would be saying the Africans came from here. And that's a whole other conversation that we'll be talking about. Who influenced who? Who influenced who? Is a lot of documentation that supports how old we are. We are not new people. There's proof that we have temples referenced in the Bible here in the Americas, here over this hemisphere, over here, okay? Which contradicts that the Bible is discussing Africa and only Africa. Moving on. Number 4, DNA companies do not recognize political identity. Being indigenous is not a race, it's a political and cultural identity tied to land, governance, and kinship. DNA tests cannot confirm enrollment, tribal citizenship, or community belonging. Tribes do not accept DNA tests as proof because they affirm genealogy, not genetics. That's a whole, like that said a lot. I don't know if you missed it. It probably went over some people's heads. And this is why we're having this conversation, because it's one of those things that if you have been whitewashed to accept that, oh, you just get a DNA test and you know who you are, you're lost from the very start because your mind is already centered in what they told you who you are and how you find who you are. The whole plan was to erase the records. The whole plan was to do that. What we have, the sad thing is, I want to discuss, I have to bring in Martin Luther King. And you're probably like, what Martin Luther King got to do with American Indians? He's black. He wrote for, he ran for civil rights and all that. There's so much that has been swept under the rug. And Martin Luther King's, his legacy has been whitewashed. I remember being a child, listening to his speeches and tuning him out because I, as a child, did not want to fully assimilate. I did not want to um, come in peace because I understood at that time. I didn't know I was what tribe I was from, um, and I just would hear we have Indian in us. We have Indian in us. That's all I would hear. You know, no how, none of that, right? And so I tuned Martin Luther King out. Martin Luther King Jr. Anytime he came on, it was like, whatever. I don't want to hear that man. I honestly, no disrespect. I was like, he got punk in him. Okay. And now as a tribal chief, I have to study the timeline of how things landed from the start, right? And in studying, one of the things that I recognize is that Martin Luther King has been saying all along, we from here. He knew. And it's not just because his wife, there's information that says that Coretta Scott King was Cherokee. It's not because Rosa Parks, is now identified as American Indian. No, he knew for himself, his family. And he says it. The mountaintop, we were here before, the pilgrims landed on Plymouth. He even says in I Have a Dream speech that what did he say? He basically says that um, we have been estranged in our own land. This is his verbatim. Pull it up. You can listen to it, or you could get the transcription of his speech. His speech is. He says these things. And so we don't know what we don't know. And so our mindset, because we're educated in their systems, has been whitewashed to accept their logic as foundational truth. And it's not. You study the English language, the whole language is designed to confuse you. Contracts, legal documentations, everything about it is to to get you caught up in lies. One of the words I don't like to use is, understand, especially when dealing with legal systems. Do you to stand under them? They command you. Know the words we use, right? And so when I'm talking to someone who is trying to assert authority over me, I do not understand what you're saying. I don't understand. No comprende. Okay. Number 5, scholarly backing and indigenous voices. Says it again. Different ones who have written documentations to discuss this. And many of them are Native Americans because they themselves are going through uh, an issue of their tribal affiliation being taken away from them. And for me, I look to that. The more I study the history of what went down, I feel like that's a bit karmic for them, because we are partially in this position because one, when they came over, they tried to colonize as the Europeans did, and so there were wars, there were fights, there were there was conflict. We did not integrate with all of them. We did not. And so there was war and bloodshed just between our two groups before we even met the Europeans. We already know. We already know the history of when Europeans came here, and we know their global history of being tricksters, being very manipulative, and individuals who will take advantage of your weakness. And so that was prime opportunity for them to find groups of the Native Americans, who we call Native Americans today, because that wasn't even their original name, who we call Native Americans. They made alliances with the Europeans and to take our land, to attack us and to fight us. And there's a whole history paper trail of that So we'll have that conversation another time. But I just want to discuss paper over blood. Okay. So I want to stay focused on this. Anyway, the conclusion: family lineage is rooted in community, story, land, and memory. DNA is rooted in colonial science. So when Black Americans ask, why don't you just take a blood test? The answer is because my ancestors were defined by a lab, were never defined by a lab. They were defined by who they loved, who they fought for, and who remembered them. And I carry that memory. I love that. Chat GPT gonna give me some quotes, okay? Um, but that's the real, it was short. I feel like it was, pretty short. It's not much to, I just wanted to do this, have this out here, and have this discussion with you because we are divided in this conversation. And it would be in the best interest of Black Americans to accept this truth. Even if you don't, okay, you don't want to be American Indian, okay, but don't shame those individuals who have found their families, found their tribes, and are now identifying with this, especially in this political climate. Like, this is not the time to be like, oh, you dumb for saying that. When we know that Black is not a nationality, it is a color, race given to a group of people who have been disenfranchised. These groups of people, because this all took place prior to the census and everything, this whole agenda was laid out from the very start. We have what's his name, Frederick Douglass, discussing this. Now, this is Frederick Douglass freed himself. He knew who he was. And so it's disheartening to have this conflict going on when we need to be united. At the end of the day, they can't tell us apart. We can't tell us apart. Just like Asians can't tell each other apart. A Korean cannot identify Japanese or Chinese except for when you see them in, cultural things. That's how they know. Language. We are living the Tower of Babel right now because we speak different languages and because we have different cultural differences. Even those American Indians in all of the Americas are divided based upon European standards. I was having a discussion with a friend of mine who is Haitian, and there's a lot going on in Haiti right now. And I was very honest with her, and I said, sis, I see it from your perspective as, nationalists and Haitian nationalists. But from my perspective, I see this as a greater issue. American Indians, there's so much that has taken place that I could be Haitian. The Choctawhima tribe, farthest I could go back was the end of slavery. The Choctawimas was my family was in Mississippi, Natchez, Mississippi. Okay. But if you go to slavevoyages.org, you will see how there's a trans-American slave traveling done, that transport. And you will hear, if you research it yourself, you will also hear European scientists and historians discussing it's illogical to believe that all these people came over from Africa. If you study just the population growth, there is no way that what we have now, the amount of Black Americans, that all of these people came over from Africa. If we study our history just in the Americas, just in Haiti, we will see that there was a massive exportation, or I should say, a massive decrease in population, because all of that didn't even amass to um, transport, mixing us around. The card game, find where it is. we were disoriented. Who are we to say where we're from if we called it one thing and then they named it something else? We look up, I don't know where this is, you know? It looked like I've traveled here before, but they've changed things. I don't know where I am. I might be in a new land that I've never seen before. Think we have to think about these things, and I think that it will behoove us to decolonize our minds, to strip away the European perspective of who we are and where we're from and all those things that they told us that we were. It's not in our best interest. It divides us and it keeps us from actually building anything and establishing or reestablishing any type of order, sovereignty, and protection for each other. That's what's needed. You following what's happening in the climate, the political climate right now. If we're saying that tribes were political, as a political leader, I'm telling you, it's in your best interest to trace your lineage, to find your family. And it could be as simple as talking to the elders. Please find the elders one who that's how I found more information. Talking to my elders, finding out, oh, where are we from? Natchez, Mississippi? Really? I thought it was Jackson. I thought it was that's what grandmommy said. Her mother's from Natchez. And that allowed me to find census records. You want to go beyond the 1920s, look in the census records. Why is this important? Because they changed our names over time. You know this. I'm repeating things that we know, but I want to put it in a context that you can think about it differently that empowers you, not empower someone else. Okay. And so we went from whatever tribe we were to slave or Negro, colored. Then it was back to Negro. Then it was Afro American. Now African American. Black was in there somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we call ourselves what we feel comfortable with politically. That's what we use. And so you will have other Black people will call you a nigga, not knowing that's really a derogatory term. We even if we were using our language, that's still a slang word that denotes something that we are not. Okay. Black is a political term, a political label placed upon us. Black is not a nationality, it's not a race, it doesn't exist. You can't say that I am Black because somebody called me Black. I'm American Indian, I'm indigenous, I'm Aboriginal. And as a matter of fact, I'm indigenous to this globe. This is what I want to highlight. We're indigenous to this globe. So even if you want to tell me I came over from Africa, I can then say, well, my lineage is older than all these other people's lineage. We were here. There's proof. There's bones here. You will find Negro bones before the Europeans came here. So I deserve access to my own land. And that's the conversation we're having now moving forward. We're having these conversations of land reclamation and sovereignty, walking this earth without having to oblige to someone else's imposed laws and limitations. You know, we're going to have a whole conversation on the legal system, the US Constitution, even as far as how these identifications, are. There's so much. If you don't know how to read the documentation, you will get caught up in compliance, acquiescing to things that you don't have to. Ignorance is the biggest thing here. That we don't know what we don't know, and so we shame each other. We shame each other, and it's impossible to have the healing that we need combating each other, arguing with each other on something that someone else tells us we need to believe in. Perspective is everything. And we're living in this space of where we have what they call now new age or spiritualism. All of these are ancient indigenous sciences and knowledge that we knew. And so you can reclaim your mind first before you even try to reclaim whatever tribe you're from. Just reclaim your mind and understand that maybe you may be coming from a Eurocentric perspective and judging your own family member who is only trying to find a way to elevate and seek freedom. I hope this is helpful. I hope that this helps someone who is seeking some sort of, information, or even trying to find a way to have this conversation with your family. You know what you know, but your family is like, nah, you lunching. You don't sound right. Again, my name is Basija Pyjai. I'm an American Indian chief of the Shaktuma tribe. And I thank you for your time.